Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Market Commentary. It is the 19th of November. Hope everybody's having a great day. This is technically Friday's Daily Market Commentary, even though we're recording it late Sunday evening. I like to do it on Sunday evenings for a couple of reasons. Number one, I kind of like having a day that I don't do anything. And number two, I actually like to be able to see where the futures markets open up as we go through the session. For those of you that are new to the channel, we do the same thing each and every day. We go through 10 to 12 futures markets, and where we're doing is leaving the lines on the charts. And the reason we leave the lines on the charts is so that you can see how levels form, develop, and trades play out, both for the good and for the bad. Friday was a pretty good day with a couple of trades that kind of carried over from a prior day. So let's go ahead and get into it, starting with the S&P. So don't know how many of you were able to catch on this S&P move that we had talked about as a potential short opportunity, but we've moved down about 17 points since we made that entry. Talked about how first target would be there at about 25.74. Second target's going to be down here at about 25.65. So I would think that we've probably got a pretty good chance of continuing to come down probably, Monday morning. I'm going to look at this area right in here as a potential opportunity for tomorrow when we open up. If we do gain a little bit of traction in the overnight periods, I would look to this area here. I can see next week being a fairly, with the U.S. has a Thanksgiving holiday coming up, so it's going to be a fairly short week. Typically on weeks like that, we don't get a lot of big movement. So I wouldn't anticipate huge movement next week, but I would take a look at this area right up in here. Here we had a fair price area. This area here in the past acted as support. It may indeed this time around act as a resistance point for price to catch here and then come back down. So keep an eye on this one, see if we get a little entry off of that area. So after that one, let's go take a look at the Nasdaq. So the Nasdaq, we did not call this high in the Nasdaq, although it is coming off of what we found in the S&P. We are coming to an area that could act as a little bit of support for price. It was an equilibrium of price. It was a fair price area before a strong rally up. So we may see a little bit of a rally from this point. If you really want to go to maybe a smaller time period, you might actually see something on a smaller time period open up. If you look at this 15-minute chart, what we can see is that inside of here, you may have a little bit of an area. I don't like this area. This is really from the open this evening. I don't really like this for a reversal point. I like a bit higher, maybe right in here, as a better potential reversal area. So if you indeed want to try a short off of kind of where we are, then I would look at this area of support right through here, acting as a new resistance point. So what I'm going to do is change the color here. The reason I'm going to change that color is because we're on the smaller time period. Remember, every time we're on a smaller time period, we've got lower probabilities of success when we do identify those fair price areas. So there is our Nasdaq. So potential short in the S&P, potential short in the Nasdaq. Taking a look at crude oil. So we talked about this crude oil area as a very small time frame level, and like we said, there are some times when you get into these small time frame levels that it's just going to blow right through, and that's exactly what happened on this one. So the S&P is working out for a tremendously nice profit, so we've got to be okay with taking small losses, and that's exactly what this crude oil trade was. This was a very small loss. 56.12, 56.27 for a stop. You got a pretty small amount of risk in here. This is no longer valid. I'm going to remove this as a potential turning point in the future. And there's really nothing on here that's striking me as a high probability turning point from where we happen to be. However, let's talk gold. Everybody likes to talk about gold, right? Gold is another example of a level, an area, if you will, a fair price area that we've been waiting on for a long time. Let me move this down to the daily time period. When I go down to the daily time period, we saw this little overlap right in through here. So let me take it back to the hourly. And I'll zoom in on this. So this was a little bit of a fair price zone. Now we'd had this long wick down, which meant that we came down and then came back up. That coming back up really allowed more selling to take place right through here, which dropped price, wiped out any of the buying. But there were still sellers kind of in that range. So what we can see is that price, now it took a while, but price popped up into that area and then immediately sold off. Now I think that there's a really good strong possibility we'll make it down even to 1287. So I would be moving my stop. If you're in this thing, take a look. I'm going to be looking to manage that stop down to above this pivot high, lock in a little bit of profit, and play with a little bit of house money, if you will. So gold, S&P, all working out very well for us. Crude oil, small loss. Let's go to our next group. And for our next group, we're going to look first at the 10-year Treasury note. 10-year Treasury still nowhere near our level. We're waiting on a breakout above here, so not a whole lot to cover there. In the Aussie, so the Aussie, for those people that are still riding our breakdown out of the Aussie, we took our stop, we moved it down to here. Now we're going to take the stop and move it again, and I would move it above this pivot. Now, if you notice, we continue to move our stop down to above pivot highs to continue to lock in profits as it moves our way. This would be our next breakout level right in through here. So the Aussie still working out for those of you that are more swing style traders. The euro had a gap down on today's open. Still is an opportunity for a small time frame long down here. We're not quite there yet. And then the Canadian dollar. So our Canadian dollar hit our level that we had identified on Friday, came up, and it's actually come to its opposing fair price area. So this one I would definitely want to be out of, taking some profits off the table. This level is no longer going to be one that I'm going to look at going forward. I don't think this is going to be as powerful of an area simply because it's been hit once and again. So I'm going to remove this area from. But if you're keeping score, that's yet another one from Friday. So Friday was some of those days there are better than others, and Friday was one of those days. So we're going to remove this one off. For now, there's nothing on here that's striking me as where I would want to put another opportunity in place. Last couple of markets, we're going to look at the British pound and the Japanese yen. Nat gas nowhere near, British pound nowhere near any of our turning points. Japanese yen, however, we have come into the area, but we're not getting the move out of it that we would like. We got a fairly weak, a fairly strong arrival into the area, but it's just not reacting well. So in this one, I'm thinking it's time to cut and run, and I'm okay cutting and running with a small profit if it's not moving the way I think it's going to move, and that's kind of where we are right now in the Japanese yen. So all in all, a great way to close out the week. Let me know how you closed out your week. Put it in the comment section below. It's always really great to hear from you. I've gotten a lot of really good feedback on these sessions. Another thing that I had talked about on one of my most recent videos was doing a candle to candle video. So I'm actually going to do that tomorrow night. So tomorrow night, I'll do it again, same time, 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. I'm going to do a live video on trading candle to candle at reversals. So it's something I've actually never talked about, even when I taught before with the academy. It's something I never really talked much about, but it is a very viable way of trading. And what it really does is, especially for swing traders, and for the people who are looking for more of that momentum play, it's a pretty interesting way to look at things. So I'm gonna dive into that a little bit tomorrow on a live video feed. So if you want to hop on that, it's probably best to catch it on Twitter at IIE Financial, which is my IIE Financial Twitter page. And if you have any questions, certainly feel free to shoot me an email, chuck@iiefinancial.com. So hope everybody's having a great day, had a good weekend, and I will talk to you all soon. See you.